And welcome. It's Friday and we are live-ish. I'm recording this a few weeks in advance because today, November 3rd, I should have got back from New York yesterday. So I'm probably going to be asleep when this goes out. But I want to keep the consistency of Friday, 10 a.m. London time, of getting a live stream out. So apologies for not being fully live, but feel free to leave comments and questions and stuff as always. I'll get back to them. I am going to go live on my website in a couple of weeks on November. I always forget. November 9th, which is a Thursday at 12 p.m. That's lunchtime. London time. I will be going live and in a live Q&A all about the ecological approach to coaching. So if you're interested in that, head over to mytenniscoach.com, go to the workshops, get your free space, and yeah, we can chat about all things constraint-led, ecological approach, how I coach, or any other coaching topics. It's just a Q&A for an hour. It is free. The reason why I'm not doing it on Facebook or YouTube is because the streaming service I use to go to all different platforms, I can't see questions and comments in real time, which is a bit annoying. So any live Q&As I will host on my website. It is free. Don't have to be a member. Don't have to subscribe, anything like that. Just need to book yourself a place and you can come on and ask some questions. So that's in a couple of weeks' time. So apologies for not being fully live today. Anyway, that being said, let's discuss the topic of negativity in tennis. And this was a question sent to me over on Instagram at my tennis coaching by Jack. Jack sent me a message saying why adults, or how to deal with adults who are so negative when they play. So when they make a mistake or they miss a shot, they get quite negative. They might bang their racket, swear, get really frustrated. And what Jack said was, with juniors, he's quite comfortable dealing with that situation, but with adults, because these adults are older than him, he's quite a young coach. He feels just a little bit awkward in trying to approach the situation. So I'm going to give you my thoughts, my opinions on how we can deal with that, the reasons for it, which will be more important, and a sort of better way that I see going forward to deal with negativity, adults or juniors, because the frustration and the negativity probably comes from the same place. So the first thing that we have to understand is it's human. It's human nature. When we make a mistake, we get frustrated. We don't like making mistakes. Like even this morning, if I make a mistake on this in this stream, I'll get annoyed. Okay. But that's normal. Like, we're not perfect. We're not AI robots just yet. We're not Chat GPT just yet. We will make mistakes. We will get things wrong. We need those moments to learn. We need those moments to develop. So the first thing we have to understand that is human. And a lot of tennis coaches try to stop that human nature, and you can't stop the reaction. I think that's the first thing you need to fully understand, is you can't stop the reaction, because it's human. It happens in a split second. And we've all done it where we've got angry or mad at something and we don't mean to, but it just happens. It's just instinct. It's just within us. We can't stop that from happening. So as coaches, we can't stop that. And that's why I say to my players all the time, like, well, I wouldn't try and stop them having the negativity. It's how they react to that moment that will determine the next couple of points or possibly the outcome of the match. So let's fully understand that it's human. We have to make mistakes. And the way I sell it to players or parents is, it's the hot plate. We've all been to a restaurant where we get a hot plate. It might be a steak or some kind of, it's generally a steak, isn't it? Some kind of meat on a hot plate, and the waitress or waiter says to us, please don't touch the hot plate. And you always have that thought of, I wonder what happens if I do touch it. Or you forget about it and you touch it. And guess what? You'll never touch it again. I've touched a few hot plates in my time. Sometimes by accident, sometimes just out of curiosity how hot it is. But you learn not to touch it again. And I think sometimes as coaches, we have to allow them to make mistakes. It's such a key part of learning. And as coaches, we we're almost programmed to stop them and protect them making mistakes. Parents are the worst for it. It's what I call sort of helicopter parenting. When things get tough or challenging, parents go in and try and rescue the children. Let them make mistakes. Let them fall off the swing. Because guess what? If you fall off the swing, you learn how to not fall off it. But you have to fall off it first. And if we have, and we're almost in this culture now where we're just overprotective. And tennis coaching is the same. Like we're always trying to hot fix or quick fix stuff, and we're trying to stop errors and mistakes, but we can't. If Djokovic and Coco Gauff miss shots, then we have to expect that of our youngsters. We also need to allow them to make mistakes. And as coaches, we don't let that happen naturally enough. And this is, to me, one of the reasons why we have this negativity, because we almost set up this false, fake situation where players believe they shouldn't miss. And you can get the easiest mid-court ball and miss. But players then have this mindset of they shouldn't miss. I should have hit that ball in. I should have won that match. That's so egotistic. The word should. Replace that word with the word could. I could have hit that ball in. I could have won that match. Because there's no guarantee in tennis. You can get the easiest volley in the world and dump it in the bottom of the net. Even though it looks set up, like all you have to do is put it away. And we've all had that volley and missed. So we need to understand that one, mistakes are vital for learning, and two, it's normal. And one thing I said to Jack is we have to, one, sell the reality of the game, to players. And the stat that I use a lot with players is Djokovic, arguably one of the greatest players ever. Out of 100 points, how many does he win on average? And this fluctuates a little bit, but not by much. How many does he win? I ask my players this and parents, and generally speaking, depending on their level, 90%, best player ever, can't lose that many points. Some might be, okay, maybe 70, 60. The truth of the matter is more about 51, 52%. So he loses 49 or 48 points every 100. That's the reality of the game. You lose a lot in tennis. Because of the nature of the scoring system, you lose a lot. You lose points, you lose games, you lose sets, you lose matches. But because we set up a culture and an environment as coaches where we're always trying to eradicate mistakes. We're always trying to stop the mistakes. Think about every time your player makes a mistake, what do you do as a coach? Generally, tell them how to make it better, how to improve it. Every mistake, every single mistake, we're on top of the player. Need to go low to high more, C shape, split step, classics. So what that does for the player is it almost programs them. So every time they make a mistake, they have to improve something. They have to make something better. And it's generally technical. Not taking into consideration, one, your opponent can play well. Like if I'm playing against you and you absolutely take the ball on the rise really early and absolutely smash it down the line, and it's just a world-class shot, but I get my racket to it, I'll probably blame myself. There might have been something I could have done better earlier in the point, maybe not give you such an easy ball to smash down the line, but it might just have been a complete fluke. You just absolutely tanked it right down the center of the ball. By touching and start blaming myself. And you see it a lot in doubles, especially club doubles, where the net player will miss a volley because the baseline is given easy mid-court ball away to the opposition. And the opposition smashed the ball and net players missed a volley and they turn around and say, sorry. It's actually not your fault. But because players, especially within coaching environments, are just constantly being told how to fix things and that they shouldn't make mistakes. Gotta be more consistent. It's just stupid. Like what? It's just not the reality of the game. It's a bit like getting players to rally to 50. When would you ever rally to 50 in a match? Very rarely, maybe once a year, if that, if they're really lucky or unlucky, depending. Like, so we have to understand the reality of the game. You're going to make mistakes. And because we set up environments where it's a perfectionist environment, and that's what a coach is. A coach is almost a perfectionist. They're trying to fix everything. 99% of lessons that I see coaches do, they're working on weaknesses, how to make things better. How rarely do coaches work on what you're good at and your strengths? The top coaches do, because you want players working on their strengths more than their weaknesses. You want to hide weaknesses and promote strengths. Impossible to be good at everything on a tennis court. My backhand is shocking, but my backhand protects me on that side and gets the ball back on my forehand. But most coaches will spend hours and hours and hours trying to work on my backhand or my volley. I never come forwards. So you're just wasting time working on something that I'm probably not going to try in a match anyway, because I'm not confident there. So for me, that's one of the reasons. One, the player doesn't know the reality of the game. They don't understand that you have to make mistakes to learn. You will make lots of mistakes and you will lose matches because they're so outcome focused, because you're coaching more generally. Coaching's outcome focused. It's about getting results. It's not process focused. And that's why sometimes when we coach new techniques or tactics or whatever, players will try it in a match. They'll use it once or twice, lose, and then go, oh, it doesn't work. And they'll just go back to what they're normally used to doing because there's no confidence in it. Because they're so, again, focused on the outcome. And for me, it all comes back to the training court, the match court. It's understanding the reality of the game. As coaches, we've got to allow them to make mistakes. We have to allow them to touch the hot plate, even though we know the hot plate's not, it's going to hurt. And it's like, again, a situation, short ball in the forehand. We know that going cross court to the forehand corner is dangerous because it gives the opponent an angle and it's their strongest shot. And what would tend to happen is the player will try it once and then the coach will jump straight in and tell them, no, you can't do that. Don't do that. Go down the line because it's going to the backhand, it's reducing the angle, which is, again, good coaching. But if it's me in that situation, I think I've discussed this before. Like if it's me, I'll just keep smashing it down the line past them until they stop doing it. I'll let them learn from doing. Because if they keep giving me the same shot and I keep going down the line, after about 6, 7 goes, I go, well, you've lost 7 of them. Maybe try something different. Because again, the power of implicit learning versus explicit is huge. If I tell them, then I kind of lose a little bit of that effect. I want the full learning effect. And to me, that's why players get so negative on court. And you'll see it. Pardon me. You'll see it in juniors a lot. Junior makes a mistake, and I can think of a couple within my coaching program. They'll miss a shot, and the first thing they'll do is either look at the coach for the answer, or they'll look at mum and dad. They're waiting to be given the answer, but in a match, they can't do that. In a match, they're going to have to work it out themselves. And we're losing a degree of that now in this modern society. Like a few years ago, parents were worried about computer games, but at least computer games helped them solve problems, gave them challenges. Now all kids are doing is scrolling on TikTok. So they're not even solving computer game problems, they're just scrolling. So we're getting to a generation now where problem solving is disappearing, and that's dangerous for our sport because our sport's one big problem. And as a player, you've got to find solutions yourself. So that the reality of the court is, the reality of the game and how we set up a practice court is huge. I want my players to miss in practice. I want them to miss a lot. I want them to make loads of mistakes, and I want them to explore different solutions. I don't want to give them the answers. And yes, I can't just let them go for a full hour making the same mistake. So again, going back to the example of the short ball into the forehand, if they've done it 25 times, I may have to find a way of getting them to realize it, because they've obviously not realized that I've passed them down the line 25 times. So I may have to then stop and ask a couple of questions. But I'm still not going to go, no, don't try that, try this. Because in a match, there might be a time they go back in behind. So if their opponent turns their whole body to go to cover the line, that then going in behind is a great opportunity. But by saying, no, that's not the best shot, just go down the line, you're kind of limiting, you're limiting their ability in a match. And that's why I believe players get so negative. They just don't understand the reality of the game. Like, not every point has the same value. So if we go back to a game, like, we talk about point 1 and point 4 being a huge big points. Why the first point? Because it gives momentum into the game. If I win that first point, whether I'm serving or returning, it gives me some momentum. The second point generally isn't that important. So if I win the first point but lose the second, I'm not that bothered. Point number 4 is huge because it's either 30 all, love 40, or 40 love. So point 4 is a massive point. That's worth more than point 2. So again, it's teaching them these tricks, and also trying to string points together, momentum points. So rather than winning 1 point at a time, can you win 2? If you win 3 points, I think it's like 98% chance you're going to win the game. So can you get 3 points in a row? Rather than focusing on just every single point matters. Because sometimes, like, you'll see it all the time, 40 love up and the player misses an easy shot and then you just self-destruct and all of a sudden it's juice. And now they're even more annoyed because they were 40 love up, so they should have won the game in their mind. So it's putting the players under those challenges and matches as well. But again, we just drill and we don't put players in uncomfortable positions. And I do lots of stuff like this. Like 1 minute it's 30 all, but then I flip it on its head and say, no, it's not love 40 me. And you get that a lot of junior tennis where someone hasn't kept score. They think it's 30 all, but then the opponent's saying it's 40 love them. And the player's all flustered and annoyed or similar. Like, it's just, I do a game called a dice game. So we got a 10-sided dice. Whatever I roll, I have to win that number of points or games to win the set or tiebreak. And whatever you roll, you have to win that. So I might roll a 9, so I've got to win 9 points to win the tiebreak, and you might roll a 1. Okay, well, let's see how I deal with that situation. Can I take it one step at a time and try and pull it back? Will I just give up and just let you win the point and win the set? So we have to put players under that type of challenge in matches. Again, part of the negativity in match play becomes, for me, in my opinion, it's because the players just aren't exposed to it in training. They drill in training where there's no consequence. Let's rally cross court for 10 minutes. Great, but where's the consequence? So you just get conditioned to hitting shots without consequence. You also get into positions where you're not making decisions. Nadal himself said he makes mistakes because he makes the wrong choice. So it goes back to all the lives that we've done about isolated practice and stuff like that. So in training, if we're teaching these players in isolation, if we're making it really fluffy with no challenge and no cause or effect or consequence, then when they get into a match, they can't deal with it. They can't deal with the challenge of a match. And that's why they get frustrated, because they're nervous, they're anxious, they're upset. So in the nicest possible way, we need to make them nervous, anxious, and upset in training. We need to put them under challenge in training. Obviously, high challenge, but high support. Then we have to help them make choices under pressure. And I just don't see it enough in coaching. I just think it's all too fluffy and too nice. It goes back to what I was saying a few weeks back about the coach who just wants them to feel good and come back. And then that's when we have the issues of performance anxiety, because they've trained in a nice fluffy environment where there's no challenge. It's just drilling. And then all of a sudden you get put onto a match court where the opponent's making it difficult for you. Internal, external pressure then come a factor. And then because you've practiced in isolation without any of those challenges around you, you can't replicate the skill. So it kind of flows on to what I've been talking about the last few weeks. The negativity, I put that on the coach, because you've set up environments where you haven't given the player the exposure to the actual reality of the game, which is you miss a lot. And again, if you watch the documentary on Netflix, Breakpoint or Breaking Point, all they talk about in that whole documentary is dealing with losing matches, dealing with losing matches, then leaving your partner, dealing with traveling across the world, 2 weeks preparation to lose first round. That's the reality of tennis. It's such a tough game because you lose all the time. And we have to expose players to that straight away from TOTS tennis. There has to be winning and losing in the warm-up. There has to be winners and losers in the body and ball. Has to be winners and losers in every single element of your session. There has to be cause and effect. But what tends to happen is a lot of coaches just work in isolation. Oh, I don't want to put pressure on them because it's tough. I'll just work on this where there's no real pressure. Great. I kind of get the logic, but then once they're exposed to the heat of the battle, they're gonna melt. So it's just pointless. So again, all ties into this new way of thinking for me with the ecological approach. Just put them in a challenging situation and let them find a way out. And then your job as a coach is to facilitate. I don't get this whole, oh, beginners need a framework, beginners need help, beginners need more instruction. They don't. Just let them get on with it. Again, I think it's just our ego takes over and I think we know all the answers. Your job is to guide and help and present the reality of the game. The reality of the game, which I've mentioned a million times in this stream, is it's bloody tough. Tennis is difficult. You can play 8 amazing world-class shots and then miss the next, and you think you're a really bad player. That's how difficult a challenge tennis is. So we have to get over that. But all comes down to us as coaches. We set the environment, we set the culture. And I seen it recently at a club that I was at. So it was a squad session. I can't remember mentioning this before, but it was a squad session. Coaches at the back, players are drilling, which is just so frustrating to watch now. Just drilling unrealistically cross court to each other until they're mind-numbingly bored. Anyway, but the coach at the back of the court, and every time the player misses, they're just snapping instructions, and it's just lots of random stuff. Grip, racket path, movement, balance, extending the racket, follow through. And I came home and I sort of said to the wife, it's like watching a lion tamer. So every time the lion stepped out of line, it was just smacking it with the whip. Like, how is that fun? How is that player even taking instruction? Because imagine if, like, I can remember driving lessons, and like if I made a few mistakes in a row, and the driving instructor kept on trying to tell me like how to fix it, I just ended up not listening to them because I just couldn't listen to it because again that human instinct of I don't like being told what I'm doing wrong. So I just block them out, and in the end, I told them to shut up. I was definitely difficult to teach. But I need to make those mistakes. And obviously, there's a slight safety issue with driving. Like, it wasn't dangerous, but like stuff like, I'm not going to go into it, but like just stuff like coming off the clutch too quick. Yeah, okay. I felt it because I felt the cargo. You don't have to tell me. I felt it. I felt that wasn't quite as smooth. Okay, I felt that I pressed the brake too quick and a jump for. I felt it. You don't have to tell me. And like it's the same within tennis coaching. The player will know it might not have been completely correct, but then going back to my argument, what is completely correct? As long as the ball goes in and it's effective and you've been somewhat efficient with the movement, and it doesn't really matter how it looks. So that's my 2 cents on why we have negativity, especially in match play. 1, they don't understand the reality of the game. 2, the conditions of practice have not been presented to them in line with the reality of the game. And 3, again, coaches just not setting up the right environment for players. And I guarantee, go on court tonight, watch the coaches next to you. How many of them are actually getting these players ready for the reality of tennis? Or how many are literally just teaching isolated shots? Let me know. Let me know. Come and join me in a few weeks for the live Q&A. I will be opening it up. So I'm checking the date. So it will be the 9th of November, Thursday, 9th, 12 p.m. It will be open question and answer. So it doesn't have to be on ecological approach. It doesn't have to be on constraint-led approach. It can be on absolutely anything. So there'll be a link down in the description. It's free. All you got to do is register your place. You'll get a link to the stream. You can come on. Don't have to be on camera. You can put your questions in. If you can't make the stream live, send me your comments. Send me your questions. Either leave a comment below this video or email me, steve@mytenniscoaching.com, or Instagram DM. Don't use Facebook DM because all I get is spam, so I don't look at it. But Instagram DM @mytenniscoaching. Ask me a question and I'll answer it live on air, on stream. But I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, please go and check out mytenniscoaching.com. If you like my content, if you believe you want to explore this ecological and constraint-led approach even more, have a look at my coaching guild. Button right at the top, lots of webinars, articles, stuff in there as well. Podcast is out every Tuesday now on Spotify, different topics as well. Some of the topics I discuss in greater detail on the pod. And that's about it. Listen, I hope these lives are somewhat useful. I have no idea. I said the numbers aren't great, but I'm hoping over time they'll grow and grow and grow. But there we go. If you would like me to discuss anything in these lives, again, let me know in the comments. And until then, next week, I actually will, let me just check. Will I be going live next week? Yes, I will be going live next Friday at 10. I haven't quite decided on the subject yet because I want these to be quite reflective of my week, really. But I will be live next week on the platforms. But like I mentioned before, quite difficult to see any questions or comments in real time. So if you'd like to join me live and have a chat one-on-one, and you're not shy and you're happy to be on camera and share your coaching voice across my YouTube and Facebook, then let me know. It'd be nice to actually speak to someone rather than speaking to myself. I do get fed up listening to my own voice. There we go. So if you can join me Thursday at mytenniscoaching.com, please hit the link below. If not, I'll be live next Friday on Facebook and YouTube. Have a great week. Rethink your coaching. Reflect on what you do well. Can you improve what you don't? And until next time, I'll speak to you again soon.